What is up, guys? It's ChiefJammy or the Pharaoh Potato here, and today I'm back with another League of Legends commentary. I'm gonna be doing a bit different type of video today. It's gonna be a Nasus guide, actually. So, definitely not the best Nasus, but if you guys want to learn a few basic tricks and tips to Nasus, this is definitely going to be the video for you. Nasus is probably one of my mains, definitely, and I've been playing him for a decently long period of time. So I'm gonna be going over like everything from the very basics, from his skills, all the way to more advanced stuff like some strategies to do with him in lane, how to survive the lane with Nasus, because he can definitely get beat up pretty hard if you don't know how to play against certain matchups. So, I'm going to go in depth and, just general all about in this video. So, it might be a bit lengthy, but it's definitely the guide for you guys if you want to learn Nasus. So, starting off, let's just look at League of Legends, their actual page for Nasus. Currently, he has 5 skins. So, Galactic, Pharaoh, Dread Knight, Infernal, and Archduke. Is that 6 actually? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's 5. Yep, I can count. Okay, good. But anyways, so Galactic Nasus, Pharaoh, Archduke, Infernal, and Dread Knight. So Dread Knight actually has a chroma pack. So if you guys want to pick that up, that's pretty cool actually. The Dread Knight by itself, in my opinion, doesn't look the best, but with the chroma pack, it actually looks okay. So if you guys are big into Nasus, I would actually pick that one up. Let's go over these attack, defense, ability, and difficulty. So the attack power on Nasus, League of Legends says it's almost full. I would give this a 3 out of 4. What League of Legends says, or Riot says. For me, I would say it's more near the half mark, maybe even a little less. I don't think this is pretty accurate because Nasus doesn't really depend on items or AD or anything like that. He actually depends on just his Q stacks, how many stacks he can get, in a certain amount of time, which I'll be getting more into later. But so yeah, I would say attack power definitely lower than what they have here. Defense power, they have it around like half-ish, I guess. Maybe a bit above half or something like that. Around half-ish. I think that's okay. I think it should be a bit higher than the attack, actually. So, Nasus actually definitely has some nice defensive power with his passive and his ultimate. And just how tanky he's usually built. So, I would definitely give that a bit higher than the attack power. Ability power, I would definitely make this lower. But not none, definitely not, because his E actually does some nice damage over time, ability power damage. So, it's pretty nice, but usually people use the E for the armor break, and I'll still definitely get into more detail with those later. But yeah, so ability power, definitely a bit less, but not none, but yeah, less, definitely. Difficulty, I think this is appropriate for Nasus. It's a pretty good difficulty range. Maybe a bit less, because once you get the hang of Nasus, his matchups, he actually gets pretty easy. The game just gets really easy. The objective game just gets super easy, and you can definitely dominate with Nasus. I'm not saying he's banned a lot, so he's actually a pretty good pick in solo queue. If you can play him correctly, you can probably one-trick pony him to like Diamond or Platinum or something like that, and it would be pretty good. Okay, let's go over his abilities bit more. So his passive is Soul Eater. Nasus drains his foe's spiritual energy, giving him bonus lifesteal. So this makes him a pretty tanky, sustained champion. So in lane, you can definitely sustain a lot more than most opponents, because you can just Q a couple of minions or auto attack a couple of minions, and you're basically back to full health. So yeah, this passive is definitely one of the best in the game, in my opinion, for staying in lane and in team fights, because obviously in lane you have a lot of sustain, but in team fights, why it's good is because you could Q maybe their AD carry or something, and you can gain like half of your health back. Obviously it's not that much, but like you could gain like a lot of your health back in just one Q or one auto attack. So like, and if you have a lot of cooldown reduction, you can get multiple Qs off in a short amount of time, and you can really heal up. And plus your defensive items, you're just going to be really tanky and really, really good, actually, in team fights. So this is what Nasus's bread and butter ability is. Sifting Strike. Nasus strikes his foe, dealing damage and increasing the power of his future siphoning strikes if he slays his target. So, probably the first tip of the video. But, yeah, so for Nasus, basically what this means is, I know this is pretty newbie stuff, but for anyone who's new to Nasus, this is pretty good for you. This is perfect for you guys. So, basically what this means is, every time you kill a minion, or a champion, or a dragon, anything like that, jungle monsters, you get stacks. So, it's 3 for, minions, and 6 for champions, I believe. And, so basically all you want to do in lane, usually you're going to get poked out, constantly getting poked, probably pushed to tower, if you're lucky. And the reason I say that is because good Nasus players can effectively farm under tower, so I definitely recommend practicing CS with Nasus, or just with any champ, because it's just a really useful skill in general. It's not just with Nasus, but Nasus especially, because his damage output is definitely reliant on his Q, which his Q is reliant on stacking, which again is reliant on your CS. So definitely practice CSing before trying to go really good with Nasus, because you're gonna need to know how to CS properly. And even if you don't want to play Nasus, CSing is just a really good skill to have. So yeah, so a tip is probably just, if they push you to tower, that's good for you, honestly. Just farm under tower, or just try to freeze lane, basically. Don't ever try to push, unless it's later into the game. But in the first stages, the early stages of the game, just farm it up. You're always going to be a late game beast no matter what. So just farm. There's really no point in trying to push harder, unless you have a really coordinated team. But in solo queue, that usually never happens, as you guys will probably know. But yeah, so definitely farm this up. Play passive early game with Nasus. Definitely. Okay, his W Wither. Nasus ages an enemy champion, decelerating their movement and attack speeds over time. So this is a really useful ability, in my opinion. I would compare Nasus to maybe Udyr or someone. The reason, because Udyr is a champion that has to run up and hit the guy to kill him. Unlike champions like Jax, Tryndamere, Irelia, they have a lot of dashes. They can jump to the champion, something like that. They don't really have to walk up to them. They can just Q to them, or, whatever, dash to them. But Nasus and Udyr, they're like champions that literally has to walk up and Q the guy, or do whatever, hit the guy to actually do damage. Jax and Tryndamere and Irelia can dash up to them and then start doing damage. But Nasus actually has to, walk up to the guy and then Q him. So this spell definitely helps out with that. Basically slows their movement speed by a lot. It's facing an Nasus is pretty annoying late game if you're an ADC. And pretty terrifying too, because he can slow you, and then one Q is usually at least half your health. Late game for me, it's around 3/4 of their health. Obviously, they usually have lifesteal though, so they can lifesteal back up a bit more, but usually 2 Qs does the job well and kills them. Maybe 3. And if it has to, 4 even. But still, it's really nice ability Wither, because you can just catch up really quickly. Or if you're even running away, you can wither the guy trying to get to you and just run. But another big part of this ability isn't just the decrease in the movement speed, but the attack speed as well. So any auto attack based champions like Tryndamere, Irelia too, Jax, all those guys, this is a pretty good counter. So I'll tell you guys the skill max order after I go through all the abilities. But yeah, Wither is a really nice counter to any auto attack based champions or really mobile champions. So the reason I'm making this Nasus guide is actually because, I like playing Nasus a lot. That's why I really want to get this guide out for you guys, so you guys will like playing Nasus more, and we can see more Nasuses and stuff. But actually, it's because Nasus is a pretty good counter to most of the meta champions right now. And what I say by meta is, Tryndamere is really in meta, Jax is really in meta, because of the item Guinsoo's Rage Blade. You guys have probably seen this a lot in solo queue games. Yeah, they go Guinsoo's Rage Blade a lot now. Maybe a little less than a week ago, but still, they still go Gunsoo's Rage Blade a lot. The reason because Gunsoo's Rage Blade is so OP for any auto attack based champions, because they just gain attack speed, attack damage, ability power, I think, and it's just really nice for all those Tryndamere, Jaxes, and Aurelias. But Nasus is a pretty good counter to these guys, in my opinion, because of the Wither of his W. It's just really nice against those guys who need auto attack to get their damage off. So Wither, really nice ability. Next up, Spirit Fire. So Nasus unleashes a Spirit Flame at a location, dealing damage and reducing the armor of enemies who stand on it. So first thing I want to point out is, I don't know why they capitalize the A in armor, but, you know. Anyways, Spirit Fire though. Okay, so this is pretty interesting ability. So basically what it's saying here is it's a damage over time, ability power damaging ability. So that kind of tongue-tying word, but yeah, so basically it does damage over time, scaling with your AP. So I would not definitely recommend Nasus AP whatsoever, but yeah, this thing scales on AP, so, you know, Nasus AP I guess could be, you know, at least a viable choice, or an option, because at least he has an ability that scales off AP. But most of the time, this ability is used because of its reducing the armor break, basically. Because it says reducing the armor of enemies who stand on it. So a good combo is EQ, like Q right after E, because it reduces the armor, and then you Q, which does even more damage because you reduce the armor. So it's really nice. An item that could synergize well with this is Black Cleaver, maybe. Usually I don't go it, but, you know, you guys could definitely think about that. So yeah, and the damage over time on this ability is still pretty nice early game. Even though you don't have AP, it can still actually do some pretty nice damage. So yeah, that's Spirit Fire. Fury of the Sands, his R, his ultimate ability. This is a really nice skill, actually. It's a really tanky skill for bruisers and stuff like that. It just makes him that much more tankier, you know. If a guy ignites you, you can use this and you won't die from the ignite, just because it gives you health, attack range, and it drains nearby enemies' max health, converting it to bonus damage. So like, it's just really tanky, and it pretty much stacks on Soul Eater, so you can just get more Qs and more lifesteal off of this ultimate, and it just like slowly like what's it called? It's kind of like a Sunfire Cape-ish. As you can see, it drains nearby enemies' max health. So it's pretty good against tanks and all that. So yeah, this spell is definitely one of his well-known spells when he transforms into like a big, raging, you know, Nasus. I mean, Nasus is already scary enough without his transformation. But anyways, okay, so yeah, let's go over the skill max order. So definitely Q, no doubt about that. Always max Q, not because of the damage, obviously, but because of the cooldown reduction. I'll get into more of that later, but yeah, cooldown reduction is basically everything on Nasus, so you can get more Qs off and farm it more than like someone who didn't have as much cooldown reduction as you. Now, the next two that you want to max is W or E. These are situational. I usually go E for the extra armor break. I only put 1 point in Wither until I have to upgrade it. But Wither is, you can max that second if you're going against like Tryndamere or Irelia or Jax. But I would probably max Spirit Fire for like, you know, Maokai, you know, people who don't really auto attack that much and aren't really that mobile either, so they don't really need to be slow. They're already pretty slow and all that. So yeah, I would probably max this second unless you're facing one of those auto attack based champions or champions that are really mobile. So, and then max Fury of the Sands whenever it's available. Obviously, it's an ultimate ability. So, yeah, those are the skills. Now, the last part of the video, or one of the last parts in the video, my runes. So, this is definitely a big part of how I make my Nasus work so well. Is because it gives me 16.8%. I always take this armor just because armor is really nice. There's always going to be one AD champion at least on their team because of their ADC. Maybe even 4, maybe even 5. The reason I say like 3 is because sometimes the mid laner is, sometimes top laner is, sometimes jungle. You know, There's always going to be at least one though because of their 80 carry, and his armor is just really nice in general for minion damage, reduction, and all that. So I would take the greatest seal of armors in your seal slots, all of them. So that equals 9 armor, and then the rest actually I have all cooldown reduction. The reason for this is because your Q, and the faster you can farm it, the more effective you'll be late game as Nasus. So yeah, definitely this page works for me. Try it out, you guys, if you guys want to. So 16.8% cooldown reduction, 9 armor. This is a pretty nice page. Let's go into Masteries now. So as you can see, I have none in Ferocity. The reason for that is because I don't need. So just focus on these 2 slots if you want to make a Mastery page for Nasus. I actually have the Keystone for Storm Raider Surge. What it for anyone who can deal large amount of burst, and then needs, and then Kira again for the kill, or maybe because the movement speed is really nice on Nasus. Overall good on him. So that's why I picked that one for Nasus. And then these you can probably mix and match, but I like I have even more sustain in lane. So movement speed, all this nice stuff, and I have some in resolve for that extra sustain and stuff like that in team fights. So the last thing in the video, the items. So I already made an item page for Nasus before this video for you guys, so I don't have to go over everything again. But oh crap. But yeah, here, let me go over this for you guys. So a good start on Nasus. So I would definitely recommend these 2 starts. But if you want to, you can go the general start, which is you can get 4 potions. It builds into this Glacial Shroud, which I'll talk more about. So yeah, cloth armor against any 80 champion. These 2 are for your first back. Usually and this one builds into Kindle Gem. If you guys didn't know, so yeah, see, it builds into Kindle Gem and upgrade. So, but for this start, you can only, if you go the same Masteries as me, you have Biscuits, so you have really nice sustain. So the last start I would say is Corrupting Potion. So first back, what I do is Kindle Gem and Glacial Shroud. If you go the exact same Masteries and runes as me, as you can see here in my Masteries, do we just save? No, okay. In my Masteries, I have Intelligence, which gives me my, which is another big thing. Why over here in the item sets? Oh, let's go to Nasus. These 2 items, if you can get them 20% plus your 20, so these 2 are great items. So after you get your first bag, you teleport back to lane. Maybe if you have any extra money, buy some potions. If you're low on money, I'd recommend getting Glacial Shroud and some potions and maybe boots, or against AD, or Kindle Gem and boots and some potions against AP. But hopefully you can get these 2 items on your first bag. Go back to lane. Keep farming, keep farming, keep farming. Nasus players make is they so, but enough about that. So if they need you, definitely go down there to help. The reason I say this is because once you have Frozen Heart, Glacial Shroud, Frozen Heart and Kindle Gem, you'll have max CDR. So yeah, that's really good because you have max CDR now. And obviously buy some boots in the middle. I should probably put that in here. Buy some boots in the middle of these items. Just decide when you need boots. So right now, you're sitting at Kindle Gem and Frozen Heart and boots. Probably, if you go the same build as me. And then you could either, if they're AP heavy, you can finish up this Spirit Visage. It definitely helps your damage a lot. Finish Frozen Heart from Glacial Shroud. And if you need to, finish this Spirit Visage. And definitely get this Trinity Force. And these 2 are viable choices. And Kindle Gem builds into Omewrecker. So if you have Kindle Gem and you want to buy the Spirit Visage, that's perfectly good. But if there's not much AP, you can actually buy this because it gives you. Basically, it's just really good for turret diving, helping your team dive. If you need that fight, and it's just a really nice and honestly, it's pretty cheap actually. It's pretty good. So next up, Zerat. This item is pretty good. So with your Kindle Gem, you either want to build it into this Spirit Visage or this Omewrecker, and then you could mix and match this Zerat's. So for the boots choices, I would probably go Merc. I get Merchas even if they only have 1 AP, is because actually. So some other viable, if you don't buy this Trinity Force, just keep in mind, guys, if you buy this, even though it is 1,100 more left, 100 left, Spellblade. So it has everything you basically need on Nasus, except it doesn't have, you know, the movement speed. You know, if you want this cheaper item, this, keep in mind again, it does push the lane pieces, but you know, usually I go with this thing over this Iceborne Gauntlet because I like to freeze lane and stack more. This thing definitely pushes it faster. Last two items I would say that are okay. Warmogs, obviously you guys know this. So yeah, this is a really nice item. I think that concludes the video. So yeah, these items are usually what I go. You know, runes, masteries. So you know, if you guys have any tips on Nasus, you know, if you guys are, probably some of you guys are way better than me, so tell me if you guys have any tips for me, you know, anything like that. You know, I'm gonna try to get the uploads back going. Sorry for the delays and stuff, all that stuff. You guys probably know this coming up for exam week and all that. It's gonna be pretty busy, but I'll try and definitely get those videos out for you guys. Tell me what you guys thought of this video. You know, any tips or anything like that. You guys want to play with me? Just tell me in the comment section below. I'll try and add together and all that good stuff. And yeah, peace, guys. Thanks for watching.